As the last video of the year, of course, we're doing a Notion video. I want to create a productivity dashboard. I want to show you how filters work and how you can create a really intricate dashboard, how you can start problem solving in Notion and create something that is customized for you and your needs. And what we're really going to focus on here are the formatting features. So things to help you automate your workspace. And we're going to do that through filtering linked databases and creating the ability to drag and drop pages between these linked databases inside of a dashboard. Let's just get right into it. Starting with this blank page, first I want to make it full width. So coming up here to the top right-hand corner, I'm going to go to full width, toggle that on, and get started. So the first thing I want to do is create the database, and we're going to create an inline calendar. So /calendar and choose the inline option and label this maybe to do calendar template. Now that we have this in place, let's add some properties to this database. And to do that, we're just going to create a blank entry inside of one of these dates. So the first thing I want to do is rename the date property to due, or maybe due date. I want another property called type, and I'm going to make it a select property. And let's give some options for the type of task. So let's say one might be an assignment that's due. Another might be a quick task, an appointment, content to publish, and an exam. The next property we're going to create is a checkbox property. We're actually going to create 3 of them. We're going to create one that's called on deck, and these will kind of be like our statuses. You can also create a multi-select property for this, but for this simple example, I want to use checkboxes. So in progress, and I actually use these checkboxes in my own workspace. And complete. We're going to have one last property that's going to be a formula, and it's going to be called day due. And in this formula property, I want to determine if a task is due either today or in the coming week. I want to know what day of the week it is due. But before we do that, let's customize this main page. I want to create 3 different linked databases from this main one. So at the top, let's start with tasks we're currently working on. So I can just go /linked, and I can come down here to create linked database and search for our database. To do calendar template, and I'm going to actually change this to a list view. And I can go to add to view, list, create that list view, and delete this table view up here. Right above it, I'm just going to go /H2 and just give it a label called currently working on. And to change the color of this background, I can go /gray and choose background gray. And actually, I want to duplicate this block, so I'm going to go Command D, drag it over to create a column here, and I'm going to rename this label to inbox. Maybe change the background to blue. What I'm going to do is drag this linked database I made right under currently working on. I can also duplicate this linked database. I can press these 3 dots here and just press duplicate, or Command D to duplicate again. Drag one of them under inbox, click into this label, duplicate again. I'm just going to drag that above here and call this one tasks for tomorrow. And maybe change the color to pink. And I'm actually going to highlight these 2 blocks and drag them under the calendar. Now that we have this, I'm going to configure these little windows. So to determine what tasks are currently being worked on, I'm going to create a filter, add filter, in which in progress checkbox is ticked. And I'm going to create another filter under this that shows me the complete checkbox is not ticked. So this is everything we're working on, but is not yet complete. In here, I want to create a place where I can just add something like ideas. A place where I know I want to get this done, but I haven't quite given it a due date yet. So let's create a filter here. We're simply changing the filter to say due date is empty. So if I were to create a new task in here, call it new assignment, give it a type, that due date is empty. Subsequently, everything else is empty. When I'm ready to give this a date, I'm just going to grab it and drag it down to the calendar and plop it inside of one of these days. Let's say the 25th. Now when I click inside, it gives me the due date, the 25th of December. Now I can also drag it back up to the inbox and that due date will disappear. And this is all in relation to those filters we made. Now let's configure this calendar. So going down to filter, we can assume that whenever a task from inbox is dragged into this calendar, that the status is now on deck. And what that means is that it's not quite being worked on yet, but it has a date and we are prepared to start working on it at some point. So what I want to say here is on deck is always checked. And just like in currently working on, complete is unchecked. So now when I drag from inbox into the 25th, not only will the date appear, but it is on deck. What I also want to configure in this calendar is inside of properties, I want to show the in progress checkbox. I can actually toggle on and off. So no need to go into the card to manipulate this button. As you can see up here, a new assignment has appeared because that checkbox was ticked. Now up here, the properties we're seeing are the due date, December, fine, we can keep that there. But I also want to show the complete checkbox so that as I'm working on this new assignment, when I'm done, I can just simply check it done. So where do the complete tasks go? I'm going to create another view inside of this main calendar, change this to a list just because there's not that many properties we're dealing with and it looks a bit more minimal. Add that filter and make sure in this instance, complete is checked. So if I were to check new assignment, complete, it will show up in this view here. Now, if I accidentally clicked complete, I want to be able to quickly uncheck that box. So something I want to do here is inside of properties, show that complete button so I can quickly just untoggle it. It's always good to keep that in mind. You can kind of see how in Notion, you're almost like programming your own little app. Let's go down to tasks for tomorrow. Go into filter, and I only want to see here, the due date is tomorrow, and on deck is checked. Now, the reason for this, on deck is checked, say it's the end of the day, and I want to start brainstorming tasks to do tomorrow. I just want to come down to this little portal here and start creating these tasks. So, task for tomorrow 1, let's say it's content to publish, and task for tomorrow 2 is maybe a quick task. So you'll see here that that due date, I did not manipulate it because the filter added tomorrow's due date for me. As well, on deck is checked, and the reason why I want on deck to be checked is because our calendar requires it, right? The filter says that on deck must be checked. So you'll see task for tomorrow and task for tomorrow 2 have populated inside the calendar. And I could even add a new one and you'll see untitled has appeared. Okay, so moving on. So let's start kind of refining the edges and go to properties inside of task for tomorrow. I do want to see the type, and we can come up to here as well in the calendar. I also want to see the type of task currently working on. It would be also nice to see the type inbox as well. And yeah, let's do some examples. Again, just to show you how this drag and drop sort of feature works. let's say in inbox we have content to publish next Wednesday. Maybe give it an emoji, and the type is content to publish. And let's say I want to get this done tomorrow. So let's drag this into the 24th. And let's say I just want to get right into working on it. Let's press that in progress checkbox, and you'll see it appear up here. Now let's say I changed my mind. I want to put it back into inbox. Let's see how that works. So this is when you start like problem solving in Notion. If I drag it back to inbox from here, it is still being currently worked on, which it is not. So in order to change this, I can add a filter called and in progress is unchecked. Come back here and it will be removed not only from the currently working on window, but also our main calendar view and tasks for tomorrow. One more thing though, I can see that on deck is checked. If I also want to make sure that when dragging this back into inbox, that is also unchecked, I totally can by going to filter and adding a filter where on deck is unchecked. So that one's working properly. Now let's say I just want to drag inbox to currently working on real quick. And then I want to give it a due date. So I kind of want to go backwards. So I want to make sure I'm currently working on it and it's due on the 26th. So now everything's going to populate, due on the 26th, currently in progress, and straight to working on it. Then in here, of course, we can go complete, go to the complete view, complete tasks, and it will show up here. Accidentally pressed complete, we can untick it. Next, what I want to do is start sorting all of these databases. So the first thing I want to do is sort tasks for tomorrow, right under filter, and make sure that due date is just ascending. Now, obviously they're all due tomorrow, but if there are times attached to these due dates, it's nice to see what's happening first. And you can add a time by toggling down here to include time. Let's get into that formula that we talked about in the beginning, this day due. This is something I want to configure for our currently working on window. So first I want to see if a task is due today, simply tell me it's due today. So format date is the function I want to use. I want to format the date of right now. And I want to format it in this way. 3 M's, 2 D's, comma, 4 Y's for the year. And just close out format date. So we're working inside the format date function. So I want to make sure this equals the format of property due date in the same way. So 3 M's, 2 D's, comma, 4 Y's. Let's change the due date to the 23rd and see what happens. It is checked. Now to add more conditions to the same formula box, I'm going to just wrap this first line with an if statement and comma and add another if statement. Now, like I said, if this is true, I don't want a checkbox. I want to see due today. So after this comma here, I'm going to go, quotes. Inside these quotes, I'm going to say due today. Actually, delete this second if statement for now. And I'm going to put in the false condition. So if it is not due today, I want it to show just blank space between 2 quotes. And it says due today because it's 23rd, but if I put the 24th, it will be empty. And those quotes are signifying an empty space. Next, I want to see if a due date is within the next week, then I want it to show the weekday that it is due. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, right? So if we're going to use the date between function and say if date between the due date and now in the number of days, -1, and I'm just going to copy this function again from date between, and the date between is less than 6 days, then we're going to format the date in that format date function, but we're going to format the date of due date to give us the weekday. And that configuration is just 4 lowercase d's. Move that false condition from before, that empty space, 2 quotes, and then close it out with 2 parentheses because there are 2 if statements. Now you'll see the 24th is a Thursday. It is within the next week. It will show me that it is due on Thursday. Now let's change that false condition. Let's say instead of it just being empty, I want the date, but just in a different format. So let's go delete those quotes and say format date. Again, wrap that around the due date and just show me the due date in a different way. So say month/day/year. So now that false condition, say the 31st, will just show me the day it's due in this fashion. And that's pretty much it. We can add some emojis here to make it look nicer. Let's say for due today, I can add a check mark. And before formatting the date for the weekday, we can maybe add a calendar emoji. And I'm just gonna go inside quotes here, a calendar emoji. I'm just going to do a plus sign, add a space after that emoji, and you'll see that if I click on the 28th, it will say it is due on Monday. Now the reason why I want this here is because inside of currently working on, instead of seeing the due date here, let's go to properties and unselect due date, instead say day due. So this is just another way to quickly see when something's due in different context. It's just more of a visual cue that can be really helpful. Now that we're pretty much done, let's do one last run through. So let's say in inbox, say I want to work on shop page. It's a project. And then when I'm ready, I can drag it into, say I want to work on it between the 23rd, and I can drag this card over to the 1st, and now it will be on deck. You can see another problem we have to solve. The due date is not December 23rd. It is January 1st, right? It's always good if you plan on using these date ranges to adjust your formula if it has a date like this, like date between or date format. Instead of just saying prop due date, wherever you see this, wrap it in the function end. So the end of prop due date. That will fix that problem. We're going to do the date between the end of prop due date. Now you'll see that the day due is January 1st, and this does not mess with anything else. So even cards that do not have date ranges, it will still say due today, even though there's technically no end date. So now that we solved that problem, I'm going to, of course, show you one more thing, and this is using a website called indify.co. And it is a really valuable resource for Notion users. So let's actually duplicate this heading here. Again, that's Command D. Drag it over. I just want to make another column down here. Drag this link database under here. Change this color to gray and call it Google Calendar. I can actually import my Google Calendar as an embed. We come over to indify.co. I'll leave a link down below. There is a widget for a Google Calendar. And what I'm going to do is just copy this and paste it and create an embed. And here I can see whatever appointments I may have. That goes directly to my Google Calendar. I can see it in different views as well, like a timetable. And if I make this specific setting selection inside of indify.co, I can change it to dark mode. And if I change my page to dark mode, it will blend in very well. So that is pretty much how this template's gonna go. I'll leave, of course, a link down below, and now let's get into the outro. And that is how you can create something like a productivity dashboard. You can start messing around with dashboards. I know there are a lot of people in the Notion community that have really fancy dashboards, and it seems like they have like dozens of databases just sort of in one page, and they probably have something like this where they're using that linked database feature and linking one database in several other places. I hope this helps you get started into your own dashboard and gives you some inspiration at the very least. All formulas I mentioned, you can copy and paste them down in the link below. I hope everyone has an amazing holiday and a decent new year, and I will be back with 2 videos a week. I'll see you guys then.